For the past 5 years, I've been doing my best to discover and live my soul's purpose, and there is literally so much that I've learned, and I wish that I knew sooner at each stage of this journey, especially when almost every year of this journey, that calling would change shape and require me to keep evolving to grow with it. And even now, as I'm starting another chapter, I look back on these insights and I still carry them with me today. And so I wanted to share some of this wisdom with you if you're also going through a big transition or thinking about it even, because I would have really loved for someone who was at least a few steps down that path already, telling me all the things that I'm about to share with you. And of course, everybody's story and path is going to be a little bit different. As I've said before in my videos, that I think stories are the best teachers and people are our best mirrors. So this video is going to be the beginning of a series where I'll be sharing advice that I would have given to the past 4 different versions of me who emerged through this soul awakening process so far. So we have 4 different archetypes, if you will. The first is the bright-eyed first-timer. The second, the overnight success seeker. The third is the heartbroken dreamer. Yes. And the fourth is the renewed creative spirit. I'm really excited to put together this series for you so we can dive into each one of these archetypes a little bit more, the sort of experiences and insights that characterize each one of these phases of the journey, because I think it's, first of all, really fascinating and fun, and also I think will be very helpful for you no matter which phase of the journey that you're on. So welcome to the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed first-timers video, meaning we're going to talk about if this is your first ever attempt at breaking away from a comfortable or familiar job, role, or some kind of career-based identity, and you're stepping into something new. And while this phase obviously starts with the stepping into something new, or at least seriously preparing to do so, the phase itself can actually stretch on for quite a period of time afterwards. For me, it was a full 2 years, but generally it's because there are lessons that need to be learned during this phase so that you can evolve to the next. And of course, these 4 different archetypes, they don't necessarily all go in the same order for every person. I mean, everybody starts at the first timer one, but after that, it's going to be your own adventure. First, we need to set the scene so you can identify whether you are in this period or already kind of towards the end of the period. So as we said, something is going to trigger your exit from your old life. And this could be kind of anything. It could be a situation where something that you planned falls through, like it was for me. Or it could just be something totally unexpected, or even something just pushes you to the edge of just being sick and tired of what you're dealing with and you no longer want to tolerate it. I think the end of 2020, I had just done a 6-month internship and had a salaried associateship lined up afterwards as I was about to graduate from my doctorate program and go into the real world for the first time. What ended up happening unexpectedly was that this associateship fell through. When we were discussing the details of the contract, things just didn't feel quite right for me. And so I thought either I could go through with this contract, which I know I'm still going to learn a lot from, or I could go off on my own. I was going to start a practice anyway in a few years from now. So that was my trigger from thinking that I was going to walk one timeline and then suddenly something happening and then being like, oh, okay, so there's this other option that feels really expansive and right in a lot of ways, but also not at all what I was thinking or expecting. Granted, I had been in a business club in school for I think a year preparing for when it was time to open my practice. So I'd already actually had done the work. And the thing is, in our heads, we think that we're not ready. It's rare that all your ducks are in a row perfectly before you end up taking that first step. Because what I've realized is that readiness, it's a state of mind. It's not necessarily a state of conditions or circumstances. I think readiness is a willingness to move with what you're being shown. And at this point in my life, I was very willing, even though it kind of felt like I was nudged onto this path because there was no other option. But actually, when I look back on it, it's I was preparing for this. I just didn't think that it was going to happen so soon. So just look out for that trigger, because it's probably going to be something where you're not fully expecting it, either in timing or in just the type of opportunity that it is. When one door closes, another door opens. So speaking of willingness, that's another really key sort of thing that you're going to be feeling in this phase. Your attitude, your excitement are going to be like at an all-time high. I would say relative to the rest of this journey, it's like peak energy and drive. You're driven by sort of like freedom from escaping something worse or having no another option, like in my case. And so by default, this already is the better option. A lot of people end up in this place because they're like, well, I have nothing to lose, everything to gain. Inherently, with any kind of change, there is going to be some level of risk. But at this juncture in time, it's almost like the risk of not taking this chance would hurt you more than the risk of holding back and staying in a situation that you've already outgrown or that you cannot continue to be in. And because of that, this part of the soul awakening journey, I feel like makes the most logical and intuitive sense out of all of the other phases. Trust that if you're being pushed out of a comfortable place, then it's for a reason and it's for your highest good. In this phase, you'll also have a lot of good ideas coming to you. And of course, you want to write those down, because not all of those ideas you're going to be able to implement right away. And we'll talk more about that as we get into the advice section. This first timer's journey also comes with a lot of lessons. And that's why it's really important to pace yourself, because no amount of planning is going to be able to cover every single little thing that happens along the way. There are only so many things that you can anticipate ahead of time. I'm mostly talking about if you're building a business. During this phase, you're going to learn what your definition of success is. That definition is going to be challenged at some point, and kind of adjusting your expectations to understand what you're truly aiming for at this stage. Start questioning and asking yourself, like, what would success look like for me at this stage, knowing that this is me just starting out. I am just getting my bearings straight. This journey is going to be like longer than just this 1 year or this next couple of years. Like, it hopefully will be a sustainable journey for you. And that's the lens that I'm presenting all of these insights through. So you'll also learn when to take advice from others as you're watching an advice video, but you're going to learn when to sort of filter the information and whether mentorship is a helpful thing for you or not. And another big thing that you'll be working through is likely imposter syndrome, especially if you are stepping into a service-oriented industry like I did, as you are figuring out who you are as a provider and a practitioner. Now comes the advice. There are truly so many things I could say, but let's just start with coming back to the sweet spot of preparation and action. I find that sometimes if we do too much research, we get too buried in our heads, it can actually paralyze us and cause us to not feel ready for something and never get to that point of action. If you rage quit something, which I just can't recommend that. And I'll talk about that in the next video about overnight success seeking. But sometimes it happens, right? And then you find yourself with nothing to do and no real direction. So as much as you can before jumping into something, I would probably spend some time researching. And I would say find that edge and try to feel it in your body and in your mind. Like, where is that point at which if I keep looking into this, if I keep overthinking this, then it's actually causing me to freeze up and doubt myself. And it's usually a pretty reliable sign that you've gone too far with the thinking and the planning. It's really important to give yourself a lot of grace during this time, because this is your first time ever venturing off into doing something. Like, please give yourself credit for that. It is such a courageous thing to do. And I think it's easy to put a lot of pressure on yourself and need things to turn out a certain way, but mistakes are going to happen. Be gentle with yourself as much as you can. You've never done this before. It's going to be okay. The other thing is, in this first timers phase, there can be a rush of energy and this feeling of urgency. And I think that is kind of driven by the need to escape something less ideal. and land into something more safe, and like the kind of tightness around needing to secure that next thing so that you can rest in it. And while I totally understand, it can be a real insidious cause of burnout. It's because we have such high levels of energy and inspiration during this time. Our excitement can actually override our own body's signals of needing rest, balance, needing to take care of our bodies and our minds and our energy. I'm going to say this, and it's probably still going to happen, but just when you catch yourself doing it, just like remember this video. One thing that's really important when you get overwhelmed, because it's going to happen and it might happen a lot, is realizing that you are the one making decisions now. You are never stuck in anything that is not working for you. You have a huge amount of agency when it comes to how you want to do things. I was constantly worried that I was going to make the wrong choice or make the wrong business decision. And again, you have the power in your own business, in your own life, to make those changes from your day-to-day systems, schedules, logistics to support what it is that you want to build, right? You can change your mind at any point. I remember there were little times when I would tell myself that over and over again, because there were times when I had to make big decisions, but just like the fear was so strong. So I needed to like remind me that I'm in control here. And that if I go a certain direction and give it some time, it doesn't feel quite right or what I wanted to create, I can take that as a learning lesson and then try something new. And I think that in itself can be really paralyzing for people who are used to being told what to do. Yes, it's going to feel overwhelming at first because you're like, I've never been given this much freedom before. I don't know what to do with this. If you're somebody like that, I would really recommend looking into some form of mentorship. That's not the right move for everybody right off the bat. I worked with a lot of mentors when I was in my first timer stage because I wanted to get ahead. I wanted to know what they knew so I wouldn't make the same mistakes that they did. But I was so green that I would take their advice at face value and not really question it because I didn't think that I knew better. I just kind of blindly trusted what they said. And luckily, there was one time where that really backfired on me. And then I learned my lesson that you really should look into the people that you are trusting. But obviously there's already a lot of things to do when you're setting up a new business. So I don't blame anybody for wanting help, seeking support. And that kind of comes at a later stage when you realize that not all systems that work for somebody are going to work for you. You can really take advantage of that first timer energy, the courage and the resilience, because you're going to have such a peak of it that you're going to be able to do things and take risks that you normally wouldn't. But of course, take that with a grain of salt. I have been a notorious cliff jumper, kind of recovering from that still, meaning I take big risks and I do them quickly. A lot of my lessons on that I'm going to share with you in the next video. If you're not as high risk tolerance as I am, you can just ignore this point. And another thing to take advantage of, especially if you're in business, is the novelty of this new thing being unveiled. So people generally love novelty. So you can really capitalize on that, not in a gross way, but just in a way that will help support the growth of your business and give you a boost when you finally do step out there. There will be people who do support you. That's the other thing, is really look for your community. People generally are uncomfortable with change. Even though they love novelty, that only comes after they feel your excitement about the change that you're making. So that's kind of the caveat. You have to learn to be your own cheerleader, because there are going to be people in your life, if not already, that can't support you in where you're going. And it's not always because they don't want to, but sometimes they don't get it, and they themselves don't have the freedom that you do, the courage that you do to do something like that for themselves. So I really recommend finding your people, or even just one person. If that's where mentorship does come in handy. Starting a new chapter for the first time is an incredibly exciting time. I hope you're so proud of yourself for having the courage to step into something new. Just know that whatever happens is part of God's plan for you and you are taken care of. Let me know what new path your soul is craving to jump into in the comments. And make sure to hit subscribe so we can meet again for the next video of this series that drops next week. Lots of love. Mwah.